Hello, welcome to Just the Dis. This is where we talk about Blu-rays. My name's Brian, and I've been asked to show my shirts, so I'm just gonna try and do that. This is Killbots, GoBots. I think it's Fright Rags. I have, just so you know, if you if you do videos or podcasting, you want to be comfortable. So I have like two couch pillows on my chair, and so it's hard to stand up, which is part of the reason, like, once I'm sitting, I'm pretty much sitting for the whole thing. But anyway, that's much more information than you guys need to know. What I want to talk about today, some new discs, a little collection update. This one's a little smaller than my usual, but I think I might start doing slightly smaller collection updates because you guys don't want to hear me talk that long, do you? So anyway, this is what I'm doing for this round. I'm going to start with some 4Ks there. Okay. So this one I picked up from Amazon. It was about $13. It may or may not still be on sale when this video goes live, but if it's anywhere between $13 and $15, it's worth it, and I'll tell you why. For one, the transfer looks good, and I had heard that before, but there's some cool extras on here, and one of them is this really great hour-long documentary, which I'm sure people that are reviewing this Blu-ray are talking about this 4K. It's an hour-long doc called Total Excess, How Carolco Changed Hollywood. And it's from Daniel Griffiths. It's from Ballyhoo Motion Pictures. He's done some really great doc work, including, but definitely not limited to, the Waterworld documentary that's on the Arrow Video Blu-ray. That's great. And so I watched this doc. It's about 60 minutes, and it's very brisk. It clips right along with, how they got their start and, the progression of the films right up into Cutthroat Island, which was the final nail in the coffin. But as you'll see, there's maybe a little more to the story than that. But I was really excited to get that. That is not being pushed, as like, it doesn't really mention it on the cover here. And it's the kind of thing that I think should be mentioned because it's the reason I picked this up. Like, I was gonna get it. I like Total Recall, but when I heard that doc was on there, and I'd heard people compare it to Electric Boogaloo and getting those kind of vibes off of it, I was like, okay, I need that disc for that documentary. So it's also on the Blu-ray. It's not just on the 4K of the new release of this. But as I said, this looks great, especially the Mars stuff. The red looks just gorgeous in 4K. So I was very much enjoying a revisit of this Paul Verhoeven classic, and to hear the Carolco story was well worth your time, I think, to pick up. So Total Recall. Next we have Mad Max, and this is the 4K from Kino Lorber. We got our nice slipcase. I'm going to take it out of the slipcase so you have this as your cover. That sort of classic poster image. And this looks great too. I don't know that this is a brand new master. They don't mention on the back, but I do know it looks fantastic. I'm trying to see if there's any other company mentioned on here, like a Studio Canal or something, but I don't I don't see that. So anyway, this is a really great looking 4K. It just pops. Like, it just looks wonderful, considering especially the kind of movie it is, and just some lower budget films you don't expect to look as good, and I was impressed. I thought it looked really, really nice. And it's still a really good movie, and I forgot how it ended. I forgot a lot of stuff about it, and I've seen it a lot, but I just haven't seen it recently. I've seen The Road Warrior more recently, but it's also got a lot of stuff on the back here, a lot of extra features, including right there you see Road Rage new interview with George Miller. That's about 30 minutes, and it's a Zoom interview, but it's good. He's another one of those guys like a Joe Dante or somebody where, I don't find him to be quite the same cinephile that Joe Dante is, although he definitely knows his movies as well. But I just love to hear him talk. Like, he's just an entertaining raconteur, you know what I mean? George Miller is such a neat guy. So to get an extra 30 minutes with him just sitting in his office in his leather coat. It's just super cool. I just really enjoyed that. So this is definitely worth a pickup. It also has interviews with stars Mel Gibson and Joanne Samuel, cinematographer David Egby. It has an audio commentary with art director John Dowding, cinematographer David Egby, special effects artist Chris Murray, and moderated by filmmaker Tim Ridge. There's another Mel Gibson featurette, Mad Max, the film phenomenon. So you have in here, you have your 4K and your Blu-ray, and I think only the commentary is on the 4K. I think the rest of the features are on the Blu-ray, and the Blu-ray has the commentary as well. But as far as special features on the 4K itself, I think it's only that commentary track, from what I could tell. But definitely a good-looking movie, so worth getting. Mad Max from Kino. Okay. Speaking of 4Ks I don't have yet, this is the Criterion version of Cronenberg's movie Crash from 1996. And, of course, there is a 4K version coming from Arrow, which I have on order. I hope to get with King of New York in a week or two. But I went ahead and watched it on Blu-ray, which now I probably should have waited, but I needed to see it again. I wanted to see it again. And it has been a long time. It could have been 25 years since I've seen this movie, because I did not remember how much sex is in it. I mean, I knew it was NC-17 and everything, but it was like, watching it was like, I don't know, it was like a David Lynch porn or something like that. I mean, that's a very remedial analysis of this movie, because there's a lot more going on. Obviously, if you don't know what the film is about, it's about a guy, James Ballard, played by James Spader, who finds himself, after a car accident, getting involved with a group of people that get off on car crashes and are sexually turned on by them and like to have sex in cars and just do generally weird sex stuff, or whatever. So it's obviously his most sexy movie, or most sex-filled movie, and it's very Cronenberg. It's I don't know. I love the cast though. I mean, I'd forgotten about the cast. Obviously, I knew James Spader, but I forgot about Holly Hunter. I remembered also, but Elias Koteas I had forgotten, and he's amazing in this movie. Deborah Kara Unger, who I've been a fan of for a long time. I think The Game was the movie that I saw her in that I was just like, wow, who is that? She just has a magnetic quality about her. And this is her first movie, or not her first movie, sorry, her breakout movie, which that I had totally forgotten. When I saw her in this, I was like, oh, this is yet another movie that she, the established star, was in. But in fact, it's an earlier movie for her, and she's, of course, incredible in the movie. She just, I don't know, she blew me away in this really powerful performance. And then, of course, Rosanna Arquette is also in the movie, and she's great. So you've got this incredible ensemble. It's an odd setup, like I said, with all these people and the car crashes and the fetishism. But it's an intriguing work for sure. And it's got the commentary from Cronenberg from 1997, which I think was originally recorded for the Laserdisc. And that's pretty cool, because I can't remember. Now, I misquoted on my last one where I didn't even... I need to apologize about the Night Porter. I had mentioned Criterion hadn't upgraded, and they actually had upgraded it in 2014. And I can't remember if this had a Criterion DVD or not, so I'm not even going to comment. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that it didn't, and we're getting that commentary. Even if they're putting that over, I'm not sure if that's on the 4K. I need to do a comparison, and when I get the 4K of this, maybe I'll bring this one back out so we can compare. But I was listening to the commentary with Cronenberg, and it's good. I mean, it's Cronenberg. Of course it's good. His commentaries are really neat. But just hearing him talk about, Deborah Kara Unger and bringing her into this movie and how great she was. And I think he even talked about auditioning her, maybe. It just was intriguing. I didn't get all the way through the commentary this time, but it was really good, what I heard. So then you have a press conference from 96, Cannes Film Festival featuring Cronenberg, Peter Szyszewski, the DP, author J.G. Ballard, producer Robert Lantos and Jeremy Thomas, and actors Rosanna Arquette, Holly Hunter, Elias Koteas, James Spader, and Deborah Kara Unger. A Q&A from 96 with Cronenberg and Ballard at the National Film Theatre in London, and a behind-the-scenes footage and press interview thing from 96. So, a good amount of features on this. I do think it's an odd thing that you've got now. We're seeing, because Criterion hasn't jumped into the 4K yet. Hopefully 2021 is the year for them. But just because we have this and then we have the 4K Arrow coming so close together, it's a weird thing where you might have to decide what you want to do. I chickened out and decided to, for the moment at least, get both. Maybe I'll keep this, maybe I won't. I don't know. That commentary is pretty great. So, anyway, Crash on Criterion, very well worth your time. And I've got some stuff from Kino here. Diary of a Mad Housewife. This is from Frank Perry, who is a filmmaker that we really love on the Pure Cinema podcast. He comes up a lot. Elric Kane is a huge fan too. And Larry Karaszewski, who's been on the show several times and has a wonderful track record as a screenwriter, does some great trailers from hell over at their website. He does the commentary on this. And I forget, Frank Perry, for those that don't know, he did things like The Swimmer and David and Lisa and Rancho Deluxe, and I mean he's really done some interesting films. And this one was unavailable for a really long time. Was on VHS and nothing else for years, and was a sort of breakout. I can't remember if it's her first movie or not, but a breakout performance for Carrie Snodgrass. She's there on the left with Frank Langella, and of course Richard Benjamin. I think Oscar nominated for his performance here. I could be wrong about that. Yeah, maybe not. Snodgrass received the nomination. Sorry, for Best Actress, and she is great. And I hate to admit it, but like I'd only seen this movie on VHS, and I had forgotten sort of how it plays out. Like I remembered certain things about it. Basically, it's about this housewife who's dealing with a horrible, awful, annoying husband played by Richard Benjamin, who is incredibly demanding and terrible to her. And I think it's the kind of thing that will keep some people out of the movie because he is so awful. And that was my initial experience with the movie, was just really being turned off by him as a character. And I like him a lot as an actor, so it just shows how terrible he is in the movie to her. Just very demanding and critical, and just, be my stay-at-home slave, basically, be my wife, and do all the things that, I expect my wife to do. And because he's a successful, I can't remember if he's an attorney. I think he's an attorney. Anyway, so she meets at a party this other writer played by Frank Langella, and they have like a meet not cute. Like they kind of like, she's really annoyed by him, but then they sort of have an affair, and that becomes intertwined with what she's trying to do with her life, just maintain things at home. She has 2 kids that are terrible to her too, which really makes it hard. But it's, by the time you get to the end, there were some things about the movie that I hadn't fully put together. I think I've only seen it one other time because it's available only in VHS rips and VHS tape. And because that Benjamin character was so abrasive to me the first time I watched it, I didn't come back to it until this. And so getting all the way through to the end, it gave me a whole new perspective on the movie. And it's a tricky thing to pull something at the end of a film that shifts your perspective on it, that then you have to go in the next viewing and think about. But this movie does that, and it does it in an interesting way. And like I said, the Benjamin performance is good, and so Carrie Snodgrass is great. Frank Langella is equally terrible as a person, as a man to her, but a bit more compassionate, I guess. But just so you know, like Larry talks about this in his Trails from Hell, but Neil Young, saw this movie and immediately was smitten with Carrie Snodgrass, and tried to meet her, or sort of ended up meeting her, and then they got married for a little while, and I think they had a kid or 2 together. And then she tried to come back to acting, and it didn't quite work out. Sadly, I guess she missed an opportunity to play Adrian in Rocky, and that would have sort of cemented her for the rest of her career. But as it was, when she tried to come back, it didn't work out, which is really sad, because if you see her in this movie, you'll be like, oh, I'd love to see this woman in more films. And she did a few, but this is really the big showcase. And this is a Criterion level movie. I think if you've seen Frank Perry's films, it fits in interestingly with something like Play It As It Lays, along those lines. It's just a really intriguing movie and a great performance, and I'm glad it's finally available. And you get the commentary again from Larry Karaszewski and Howard Berger and Steve Mitchell. So 3 guys I've listened to that track, and it was really solid. A lot of stuff to take in and consider and think about, and recontextualizing things. And so great release. Definitely recommended. Diary of a Mad Housewife. Equally interesting and equally rare is Puzzle of a Downfall Child. This is from director Jerry Schatzberg, who did things like Panic in Needle Park with Al Pacino. Really great junkie movie, if you will. I was going to say drug dealer movie, but it's a junkie movie. Really powerful stuff. Great Pacino performance. He also did a movie called Scarecrow, which is one of my favorites of the 70s. That's with also Pacino and Gene Hackman. 2 guys meet each other on the side of the road, and they're trying to hitchhike to different destinations, and they become friends and have plans to start a business together. And it's just a really great 70s road movie with those 2 actors. So this is his first film, or his first feature, I think. And it's, like I said, it's one that hadn't really been available for a long time. And so it's great that it finally got this release. And so there were some bootlegs out there, and I never did get a chance to watch it that way. So this was my first viewing of this film. And I think this is going to take some absorption. It's going to take some time to think about it and take it in, because this character is a tough character. Faye Dunaway plays this model named, her name's Lou Andreas Sand is who she plays. And I guess it's supposedly sort of based on a real model that I guess this came out in the commentary track, Schatzberg was working with, or he wanted to use in some show. I don't know what capacity he was working in, but he was told that she was basically too old and that they needed a new face. And I think that sort of sent him off in the direction of this idea of this model who's sort of reflecting on her life and dealing with a potential sort of breakdown. And it's a very fragmented narrative. It sort of opens with the framing device of this photographer friend of hers coming to this remote cottage on the beach to talk to her about her life and interview her on tape. And so you get some flashbacks to her as a little girl or a young girl. And Faye Dunaway plays all the versions of this character, so that's an interesting choice as well. But it's got that great sort of, again, fragmented 70s editing that really gives you a different sense of narrative. You just don't see too many films cut together this way. And you can see how it was a bit of a risky venture because it's not quite experimental, but in some ways it's much more European. And I think it was embraced much more overseas than it was here in the States. But it's sad that it's been mostly unavailable for a long time. So, as I said, this has a commentary track by my friend Bill Ackerman, who runs a great podcast called Supporting Characters that you should be listening to, along with film historian Daniel Creamer. And then there's an interview with director Jerry Schatzberg, also great. And again, this is another Larry Karaszewski pick. He's got a Trailers from Hell on this as well. So it's right in the wheelhouse of this. These two would be an interesting double bill ultimately. But a very good performance by Faye Dunaway. She's definitely a sad character, a sad, self-obsessed character, but somebody that you get to see sort of where her psychology is coming from. And again, that sort of fragmented flashback narrative style is always intriguing in a 70s film. It just sort of, you're peeling back little layers and seeing things that inform what you've already seen. And I don't know, I like that kind of stuff. So a very interesting film, but like I said, one that's going to require at least another viewing from me for processing purposes. But well worth getting if you're into sort of, that sort of 70s feeling of, I don't know, just those special films that they don't make anymore. So that is Puzzle of the Downfall Child. One more from Frank Perry. This came out the same day as, actually all three of these did, as Diary of a Mad Housewife. This is Ladybug Ladybug from 1964, and I should say that Diary of a Mad Housewife from 1970, as is Puzzle of a Downfall Child. So this is earlier. This is an interesting one, based apparently on a real incident where a school, I think of like sort of a middle school, the equivalent of a grade school, middle school, in 1962 had basically, I guess schools at the time, some of them anyway, had these like early warning systems installed where it was like a light-based system. There was like yellow, I want to say red, and a few other colors. And the first stage, which is serious, the yellow stage, was talking about potential nuclear attack, and that these schools were wired to have these alarms go off if something bad was really happening. And so apparently this happened at a real school. I forget where, I forget where the school was and where this takes place. But, so you have a bunch of, it's a small school, so you have about 4 or 5 teachers, and I want to say like 30 some young students. And so they're, one of them notices the alarm's going off. Then she goes and talks to the principal / one of the other teachers, and they just are trying to deal with it. They can't get through to anybody in the phone company to verify if it's real or not. It seems to be real, so they evacuate the school and walk the kids back to their homes. They don't drive them or bus them. And so that's sort of the day of the movie, is them walking home from school, and the kids sort of asking questions about it, and the teachers trying to be generally calming and not raise too much of the panic that they're feeling. So it's a very interesting setup, and there's some interesting young actors in it too. I'm blanking. I know, William Daniels is one of the teachers. He, of course, the voice of Kit, the car on, and he's the dad in The Graduate. He's in tons of films. So he's one of the teachers, and Miles Chapin, the cult actor who would do a lot more work in the 70s and 80s, is a very young, much different looking boy than you would expect. I actually had to have him pointed out to me via the great commentary track from Richard Harlan Smith, who I'm a big fan of his, and I'm a big fan of his commentaries, and it's great. Like, he's got a lot of info about the original incident and the actors, and he's conversational but prepared in a way that just, it doesn't feel like a loose, I'm going to wing it kind of thing, which I'm fine with those too sometimes, but he makes it conversational and adds little asides, and I like his tracks a lot. He did a great track on Scalpel from Arrow, if you haven't seen that Southern Gothic weird thriller. Definitely check out Scalpel, but his commentary on that is great. So anyway, he does the commentary on Ladybug Ladybug, and I enjoyed it, and this is another interesting Frank Perry entry, also from Kino. And last but not least, we have another Hammer film. We got a lot of Hammer films these days, and this one is The Curse of Frankenstein, 2-disc special edition from Warner Archive. So you got main feature and then special features, and so just so you know, this has the I love their synopsis is very short on the back here. It's like, Baron von Frankenstein has discovered the secret to generating new life and unleashed a murderous ripple effect. Born from his cursed creation, a monster with a horrid face and a tendency to kill. It is just sort of like another Frankenstein, sort of slightly more modern, but still period. and a little more with the Dr. Frankenstein character dealing with more people kind of telling him, dude, don't do this. And one in particular, sort of doctor guy that is a friend of his is just like, we got to stop. This is horrible. This is a abomination, And then, of course, the Frankenstein monster is played by Christopher Lee with a gnarly looking scar on his face. You can see him in the back there too. So you get Cushing and Lee, and that's always a plus. And you get another version of Frankenstein, and it's pretty good. And I know that this transfer is new and it looks good. I want to say that the colors are slightly muted in this way that I think it's the film stock. I don't know, but it looks great. Like, I don't want to make that the thing that doesn't sell you on it. It looks really good, and I know that they've cleaned it up and made it look as good as possible. And the reds are just this very certain kind of, I don't know, I can't explain it, but it looked super cool. And so the first disc has both the 1.85 and 1.66:1 versions, restored and remastered from 4K scans, and then a feature-length audio commentary from film historian Steve Haberman and film historian Konstantin Nasser. So that's just disc 1. And then disc 2 has, it looks like, a bunch of new stuff. Everything says new in front of it. So a 1.37:1 open matte version, restored and remastered from new 4K scans. New The Resurrection Men, Hammer, Frankenstein, and the Rebirth of Horror. Rebirth of the horror film, something called Hideous Progeny, The Curse of Frankenstein, and the English Gothic Tradition, Torrents of Light, The Art of Jack Asher, Diabolus in Musica, James Bernard, and The Sound of Hammer Horror. So there's a lot of stuff on here I haven't had a chance to check out yet. I just watched the movie. I haven't dug into the features yet, but there's a lot of cool sounding stuff there, and I don't mean to come at you without having seen that, but this is a thing that I was going to get either way. Like, even if it didn't have the features, I was going to get it. So I'm assuming there's some other folks out there in that same camp, because as far as I know, this is, well, I mean, it's the best, newest looking transfer you're going to get of this film. If you're into Hammer, you got to get it anyway. So I'm just telling you what you already know. It looks good, and you got a bunch of extras. You're going to want it. So that is The Curse of Frankenstein from Warner Archive. So that will do it. That was definitely not a short run. I thought that was going to be a shorter collection update, but I am too chatty, and I'm sorry. So thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. I appreciate any thumbs up, any comments about any of these films that interest you, or any pickups you've made recently that you think are going to be fun to watch or fun discoveries for you. I'd love to hear about that too. Obviously subscribe to the channel if you like these videos. Hit the little bell, because I'm pretty erratic with how I put them out, and I apologize. But thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. Talk to you guys soon.